Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is with Bitcoin Q&A, Antimus and Catan. We do our Bitcoin monthly roundup. We go through all the best articles, software updates, and much more. Really enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoy listening. Before we start the show, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been streaming Sats my way on the Fountain app and sending the personal messages. I really do appreciate it. I'd also like to thank Casa for supporting the show, and anyone who's listening and considering upgrading their security to multi-sig. I strongly suggest you check them out at keys.casa. You can use my code, which is bitbybit10, which will get you 10% off. And it's over a year I've been using them now. I've actually just sent them a few sats to get another year subscription. And I really do love the service. It is so simple to use, the app is clean, and if you take the right precautions, you can also protect your privacy. I'm happy to answer any questions around this, and if anyone wants to reach out, please do. Next up, we have Fast Bitcoins. Fast Bitcoins have been supporting this show for a few months now, and as you all know, I suggest you go to a no KYC source if you can. But I spent a lot of time trying to find someone that could be trusted with personal information and who does things properly. Fast Bitcoins have an incredible team and they have a security first mindset. They were the first exchange to integrate with Lightning and they seem to always be at the forefront. I recently had an episode with the CEO, Danny Brewster, and if you haven't listened to that, I suggest you have a listen, check it out, see what they're about, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or check them out at fastbitcoins.com. And last but not least, we have Foundation Devices. Foundation Devices are making some incredible hardware. We discussed them in this episode, and they've just had an update with another one coming very soon. I love to see the direction this company is taking. It's fully open source. They really care about design and usability. I love the flow. I like the fact they're using QR codes and you have PSBT, but it's not clunky. It really is a beautiful bit of design. If you haven't checked it out already, go to foundationdevices.com. You can get $10 off your purchase if you use the code bitbybit, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or the team. Enjoy the show.
Can you hear me?
Hello, mate.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good evening.
Oh yeah, good evening there. You still there? You haven't escaped?
No. I'm still in the gulag.
Fucking hell. Let us know if you want us to send help. Well, this is a very nice treat. How did you two work this one out? We get graced with your presence, Catan. I write to him every week, Q&A. I'm like, Catan, do you want to come and join? We'd love to have you on. He's like, nah, mate, fuck off. Don't want to join you. And then you just whisper in his ear once and he fucking comes straight on.
Yeah, I've got some dirt on him, so I use it as leverage every now and again.
Oh, nice.
No, we were just talking shit as we do most days, and I just asked him if he was busy in 20 minutes because we were recording, and he was like, nope. So I invited him on, and here we are.
Excellent. Well, we've just stepped our game up. Very
Thanks
nice.
for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So, are we going to do normal format then? Antimus, you want to go through all the updates and bits and pieces, and then we stop on any ones of particular interest?
Yeah, sounds good. I think we'll go through, because it's a pretty long list this month. So we'll probably jump over a few and then dive into some more important ones a bit deeper.
Cool.
One thing I wanted to get out of the way, Kitan, it's amazing to meet you in person, man. You're one of the voices that's really influential at the beginning of my Bitcoin journey. Sitting down for days on end with my father-in-law, setting up nodes and stuff, watching your videos. It's amazing. Cheers, man.
No, thank you. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and hope you learned something out of it and got something. So yeah, I try and help as many people as I can with running nodes. So I know it's a sometimes daunting experience, but I try and make it as easy as possible. Yeah.
No, cheers. Really appreciate it. Cool. Okay. Yeah, let's jump in. Starting off with BISC v1.8.2 and BitBox 02 firmware v9.9.0, Blockstream Green Android v3.0.8 has got a cool update, which now also uses recovery phrases with QR codes. So something that Seed Signer has been using for a while now. That's quite cool. One thing I'm not 100% sure on is if they're actually compatible. Do you know about that?
If the current state of the wallet space is anything to go by, I'm guessing probably not. But is it just for everybody listening? Is this essentially where, let's say you have bought a new phone and you've got Blockstream Green on the old one, and then you download Blockstream Green on the new one? Is it just like a QR scan to import the seed from one to the new device rather than having to type out the seed?
Yeah, that's how I understand it. I'm not quite sure if they actually use it as a, because I mean, Seed Signer uses it as the actual backup, and the Seed Signer itself is just the signing device. It's not actually the hardware wallet. It's not actually saving the keys. So you'd need that to rescan it every time. This, I think, is just a backup so that you can import it into either a new wallet or if you somehow lose your phone or something crashes.
Yeah, I think Blue Wallet does the same. I might do a test after, actually, just to see if the two are interoperable.
Okay. Then we've got Blockstream Green Desktop v1.0.5. That's also a big development there that you can now eventually connect to your own Electrum server. That's definitely important for privacy reasons there. Blue Wallet v6.2.17. That's now pulling back on AOPP. That's one of the subjects we'll probably dive into in a bit more detail later on. Big outcry last week, but yeah, cool to see.
Yeah, there's been a couple of updates on that one that I think we'll probably have a deep dive into after the software update, shall we?
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a hot discussion on that one.
Breeze has also updated to 0.12 service pack, and BTC Pay Server v1.4.3 had a pretty big one last month. Basically completely redesigned the UI UX and put in a whole bunch of new features, including removing ERC20 tokens, which is cool too.
For some reason, when I go into the UI to hit upgrade, it's all grayed out and it's saying that I don't have the SSH keys applied. But when I go into the SSH section, everything's there and it says it's all hunky-dory. So I'm going to have to do some head scratching on that one. But maybe that's one for an offline discussion between me and you, Katang, so I can pick your brains.
One thing that's pretty cool as well in that update is also the LNURL auth. that is, we've spoken about that a few times in the past months, that we haven't seen too many implementations there. But that's a pretty cool feature now, seeing that pop up in a few different releases as 2FA.
Yeah, so how would that work in practice then with BTC Pay Server then? Because I see the notes, it says it's that as a 2FA, as a second factor authentication. So I'm just trying to sort of model out in my head what that actually looks like in practice.
Not 100% sure, to be honest. I think you probably you'd need some kind of wallet that would be compatible, right? So like I saw that Zeus, we'll come to that later as well, but Zeus also implemented LNURL auth. So I guess you can probably hook that up and use your keys from your Lightning wallet from Zeus to sign in as 2FA to BTC Pay Server. Okay, then we've got Electros v0.9.4. And then also Foundation Devices Passport v1.0.8. That's maybe something you want to go into as well.
Yeah, not a huge release. Couple of minor bug fixes with kind of to do with Bitcoin Core and the interactions there. We added support for Simple Bitcoin Wallet, which is a mobile first wallet that supports on-chain, Lightning, and air-gapped hardware wallets like Passport and I believe the Keystone. And then finally, we just added a quick enhancement that auto deletes signed transactions after they've been after you've done with them, essentially, so that you don't, if you're transacting a lot, you don't have loads of redundant PSBT files just sat filling up your SD card. So it's just kind of a minor fix there. We do, hot off the press, have a release coming out this week, 1.9, which I'll save the details for next month.
Okay, looking forward to that. Then we've got Join Inbox v0.6.6. A few updates there, nothing major, I think.
Has anyone yet used this? Now we've got Catan here, because we always have the same discussion, but I'd be interested to hear, because I've used it, but while being supervised by OpenOms, and I did think it was quite interesting, but I'd love to hear what Catan thinks about this.
Join in a box?
Yeah.
Mate, I have not used Join in a box, or I haven't used Join Market in a very, very long time. The last time that I probably started using it was was when I did the like a video series. On one of the videos was Join Market, and I kind of used it as like a way of accumulating sats through yield generation. And then after that, I kind of stopped and just went into Whirlpool, just splashed straight in. So I haven't used Join Market in a very long time, and I haven't been keeping up to date with it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it in general? Because there's loads of chat at the moment on Twitter about, well, there always is, but seems specifically this week, loads of people are popping their heads up and arguing against mixed coins. And obviously you want to be using something that works best. And, I know everyone just says, oh, just use Samurai. And that's what I use as Whirlpool, mainly just because it's easy. But it did seem like it was quite an interesting option because, like you said, with the yield, like if you go in with the first round and you're actually putting up your coins and you can earn something on it, like, do you think that it's maybe useful to have as something additive, or do you think that in its current form, it's just that you might as well just use Whirlpool?
So I think, like, if you are wanting to generate yield from it, I wouldn't expect to see, just like you would with a Lightning Network node. People go in thinking that they're going to earn lots and lots of sats. That's probably not the case. Now, admittedly, my sort of data is a bit out of date, and I did mine, a fair while ago, but it wasn't that much, and I don't know if that's improved. But I can't imagine you getting some sort of yield out of there that you can live on, for instance, or it's not like some sort of passive income thing. But in terms of, I guess, the privacy and the ease of use of not having to deal with certain aspects to Join Market, I think Samurai Wallet and Sparrow these days are probably the better option for people who just want to get the job done quickly without making too much of a mess.
Yeah.
Because I know guys with their join market wallets who are trying to recover it from their 5 different
Mixed
mixed
depths.
depths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I used it, what OpenOM said to me was, he was like, the thing is, if you use this, you can effectively get free mixing. Don't look at it as I'm going to make a load of money and it's like some sort of fucking DeFi yield farming shit. It's just literally that you could effectively get your mixing free, but it is more fiddly. And so I don't know what the percentage is really that you end up paying with Whirlpool, but it is a fair amount, but that you have to consider at least. And so for some people, you'd be looking at that and saying, well, is it worth my time to play around with this? And then the other question is, well, actually, is the result going to be the same? And I guess it's like, unless you know what you're doing, you could probably fuck it up or lose your coins. So that's where it lies, I guess.
I have an interesting anecdote that I've just been looking at. BitcoinKPIs.com, which is like a Bitcoin stats website by the Twitter user Typerbly, I think his username is.
Is this the hack thing?
No, it's reference to Joy Market. But can anybody remember when the Fidelity bonds was introduced? I want to say it was like towards the back end of last year.
Yeah, I think it was
like
October, November, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just been looking at the stats now for Joy Market on this site, and since sort of, when did you say it was, Antimus? November, did you say?
Yeah, October, November, something like that.
Yeah, so the number of makers in Joy Market, so these are the people that are putting up the liquidity to be mixed, is trending downwards. Not massively, but it's trending downwards. And the liquidity per maker is trending upwards, which tells me that correct me if I'm understanding this wrong, but the number of people who are putting their liquidity up for mixing on Joy Market is decreasing, so that there's fewer and fewer people that you can have available to mix, and they're just putting up more liquidity. So it seems as though it's kind of getting a little bit more centralized, and maybe that the Fidelity bonds have not had the desired effect. Well, of course, they get the desired effect in terms of the actual base use case of the Fidelity bond, in that it inspires the takers with some confidence, but it seems to be having a very minor sort of centralizing effect on the order book, if that makes sense.
That's interesting.
Again, it's not trending down massively, but it's probably something that I might keep an eye on in the future.
I mean, it does make sense because you are putting up and locking up Bitcoin in your Fidelity bond. And
right.
Once you do take that step, you're incentivized to put up more Bitcoin in offers to actually use that, and you wouldn't spread it around too much over on other sites maybe, or other opportunities where you might get some yield as well. So if you actually do take that step and put up a big Fidelity bond, it's probably to be expected that the liquidity would rise per user.
You could have had one user that was running as several different makers with different wallets. I don't know why they do that, maybe to spread their risk or something like that. And then because of the Fidelity bonds, they've then joined all of those as one. So it could technically be that you still have the same amount of people, just it looks like less.
That's a good point. Yeah, it could be a bit of a misnomer, and obviously we'll never kind of get to the bottom of that figure.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was an interesting start. I just stumbled across it while you and Katan were mentioning it anyway. I thought I'd bring it up.
That's actually, a really good point, because I mean, that was always the criticism against Joy Market, that you never quite knew who the participants were, and that you might have this risk of a Sybil attack. And that was the idea of the Fidelity bonds, to mitigate against that. So that is actually probably exactly doing its job. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I derailed us there. Should we carry on with the updates?
Okay, we've got mempool.space with a few UI improvements there, like updates in the legend, looking all cool. API documentation as well for anyone pulling information from that site. We then have MyNode v0.2.151. They've introduced OpenDime support, which is pretty cool. You can plug it right in. I haven't tried it yet, but I've read up on that and planning to do that this week. See if that works.
Do I understand that correctly, that it's essentially plug the OpenDime directly into your Raspberry Pi and it'll have the same sort of or similar interface to the actual HTML file that comes in the OpenDime?
Exactly.
Displays the balance and whatnot. All right, good.
Yeah, that's that. Well, that's what I'm hoping. We'll see. I'll
think,
try it out this week, but yeah.
Sparrow added this as well, didn't they? Not strictly speaking an OpenDime support, but it was private key import support, wasn't it? Which is essentially what an OpenDime is. So that was good to see. But I don't think he's actually released. No, he has released that code. Yeah, it's just not in this month.
Okay. Then we've got Phoenix v1.4.20, and with minor updates there. Ride the Lightning v0.12.1. That's also better maintenance, also minor. And then Ronin Dojo v1.13.0, software updates and prep for plug and play. So they obviously released the Tanto, it's called, I think. Zelko was on Bit by Bit too here a few weeks back. Brilliant plug and play node. So they're doing a lot of preparation for that.
I'm going to go into unpaid shill mode here now, but I managed to. I got my hands on one and it's sitting right in front of me. This thing is a piece of art. It's so fucking heavy. I just I find myself kind of looking at it and stroking it every now and again. And when it first arrived, and I because I already had all the internals, I just managed to swindle a case out of them. I was like, so I got it all. It was looking beautiful on my desk, and I was like, right, shit. Now I've got to go and put it in the corner of my hallway, right next to my router. So I was like, straight into the dev chat to poke them about enabling Wi-Fi so that I can have it sat on my desk in front of me rather than it being hidden in a dark corner because it's so beautiful. I just want to look at it all the time. So I'm going to keep poking the devs on that one. I know they're not big fans of Wi-Fi enabled nodes due to the stability thing, but if we could, if I can manage to get them to, even make it optional just so I can have it sat on my desk, it's a win for me.
Can't you run a cable?
Yeah, but that'll probably. Well, I've got to run it across a hallway, and then it's at the bottom of the stairs. And
have you looked into
my wife already hates
Q&A?
Say again.
Powerline adapters. Basically, you can run the Ethernet through the existing power lines of your home. So you plug one into one power point, and you plug that into your router, and then you go somewhere else in your house, and you plug that into another power point in your home, and out comes the Wi-Fi out of that little device. Have you heard of those?
Holy shit. Can you come back on next month if you're going to keep dropping anecdotes like that? Do you know what, actually? I have heard of that, and I don't know why I've never considered it. So I'm going to go straight onto Amazon after this recording and buy one and see if it works. But yeah,
mate,
thank you for the heads up.
You've got to get onto it, mate. It's fantastic. It's not only a lifesaver, it's also a wife saver. So
I was just about to say, actually, that might save me some headaches from the wife moaning about all of my little nerdy things that are like sat bunched in a cable mess next to the router. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for the heads up. I'll report back next month. Hold me to that one.
Okay, we've got Samurai Wallet v0.99.98b, stability hotfix for Whirlpool. After the big update last month, we went into detail on that on the last episode. Simple Bitcoin Wallet v2.4.27, also pin oath and bug fixes, also minor updates there. This was one of the bigger updates. Spectre Desktop v1.8.1, also with Swan integration, so you can hook that up to your account with Swan and do your DCA right into your cold storage via Spectre. Something that fits in with the whole discussion on AOPP too. But
yeah, maybe we open the AOPP floodgates here because it seems quite fitting. I know Max is probably going to have some interesting thoughts on this. The whole Swan integration, it seems to fit quite sort of tightly with the AOPP kind of thing as well. Let's cover the Swan thing first. What are your thoughts on the integration? Good thing, bad thing, indifferent, not bothered?
Horses for courses, isn't it? It's just like, I think whatever we have this discussion, whether it's on Twitter or here, it's going to come down to the same thing. Is like, some people are going to love this and some people are going to hate this, and just don't use it if you're concerned. And if you are going to use it, at least think it through. I mean, it does feel a little bit like it's sliding the wrong way to me. And it's not something that I would personally use, but then who am I to say what someone else does? Like, if this is freedom money, if this is actually freedom money and fuck you money, then people should be free to use it however they want. And if I tell them that it's wrong, they should be free to tell me to fuck off. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Look, this is probably just kind of for those users that are DCAing on Swan directly into their hardware wallet. This kind of just removes some friction. So it's something they were going to do anyway. So I get the sort of why people would be excited by it and why the Spectre desktop team have done it. And I'm sure there's some monetary incentive for them as well, which obviously I would never begrudge a free and open source developer team to do. The bit where I draw an issue is, and it probably harks into the AOPP discussion, but it's kind of the direct integration of the quote unquote legacy system into non-custodial wallets or non-custodial wallet interfaces. That's the bit that kind of we've kind of removed another hop now, where the two sides, if you like, are just becoming more and more intertwined in certain aspects, this being one of them. And it just, I can't quite put my finger on why. It just, the fact that the two sides are slowly merging just makes me a little bit uneasy. And again, hark back to what you just said, Max. You know, this is completely user choice. It's free and open source software. Somebody could fork Spectre and take this out if they wanted to. That's the beauty of open source. Or you could use Spectre without touching the Swan button. Again, it's completely free to use. It just, the whole thing just makes me a little bit uneasy as to where we might be heading. That's all.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, exactly to your point, it's something that even if you're just using, I haven't looked into the actual UI, what it looks like, what the integration actually is, but it feels like even people who won't be using Swan, but will be using Spectre with their hardware wallets, will just have that like as an as like a like advertisement sitting right in there, right in the UI in front of them the whole time. It feels wrong. I don't know. We'll see how they actually implement it. I haven't looked in, but having that one layer removed, as you say, I think it is beneficial from a workflow for a lot of people. But having that sitting right in front of everyone while they're using the app, it would turn me off. I don't know. That's just personal.
Yeah, it's quite funny how it was released in the exact same week that the whole AOPP uproar occurred, actually. So I'll briefly cover what the AOPP thing is and what's kind of happened this week. So AOPP, do you know what? I should have looked up what it actually stands for. Hopefully somebody can Google it while I'm talking and save me in a couple of minutes when I shut up. But it's essentially a protocol designed or implemented to enable non-custodial wallet software, so Spectre, Sparrow, Blue Wallet, anything like that, to adopt the Bitcoin, the native Bitcoin message signing protocol, which has been in Bitcoin Core for years and years, to allow the user to click a button essentially in their non-custodial wallet when they're withdrawing from an exchange, so that they can prove ownership of the address that's being withdrawn to. So, which doesn't seem like, Catan's just saved me. So, address ownership proof protocol, which does exactly what it says on the tin and what I've just sort of outlined. So, on the surface of it, it doesn't sound like a big issue. If you're buying from a KYC exchange and you're withdrawing to an address that you supply that exchange, it's going to be interpreted that is your address. The issue where we've had some uproar within the last month is where this protocol has been implemented in a number of non-custodial wallets where KYC is not a thing and it doesn't exist. You don't need to provide information to use Sparrow or Blue Wallet or anything like that. So what kicked it off was Trezor came out in full support of this, saying that they were going to integrate it into their wallet software, which is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is the default for Trezor users. They are pushed towards to use Trezor Suite, which is the desktop software, and it's going to have this protocol built in. So that kind of kicked off the uproar, because they came out, they did a blog post as why they thought it was a good idea. This protocol's actually been around for 2 years, and has been implemented by Shift Crypto, Blue Wallet, Sparrow Wallet, but it was the Trezor blog post that seemed to kick off the uproar. So people have expressed their dismay for the reasons that we talked about with the Spectre issue. Really, is that this is kind of one hop closer towards the incumbent system worming their way into non-custodial wallets, so that it's kind of KYC one hop away from the exchange, and it just feels like the exchanges are partaking in this, are kind of worming their tentacles in further out of their remit. So there was a massive hoo-ha, and a lot of people, it generated a lot of engagement on Twitter, everybody calling out Trezor, saying that they thought it was a bad idea. Trezor doubled down, pushed back for 24 hours. The pressure mounted, and the pressure also mounted on the other wallets, who it turned out, because everybody went looking then to see, does my wallet have this implemented? So it turned out that Sparrow had it, Blue Wallet had it, and again, like I say, Shift Crypto, who actually helped with the integration, also had it. So within 48 hours after that, and a lot of pressure from the Bitcoin community, Trezor have walked it back and have taken this feature out of their software. Sparrow's done the same, and so have Blue Wallet. So the only remaining non-custodial wallet provider that conforms to this regulation, if you could call it that, is Shift Crypto, which I'm not sure what their desktop wallet software is called, but anyway, they're the only ones that are currently sort of playing ball with this regulation, essentially.
It's just the Bitbox app, it's called.
Okay. And to my knowledge, this isn't actually law anywhere other than Switzerland, as far as I know, which makes sense as to why Shift Crypto might think it's a good idea. I've been talking for a while, but I'll just cap it off to say that I'm really happy that Blue Wallet and Trezor and Sparrow have all walked it back. And I think it just, to summarize, it seems as though a simple message signing protocol might not seem like the end of the world, especially when you're already using a KYC exchange. They're going to assume that is your address anyway. But pandering to these ridiculous regulations, in my mind, is not the way to change things, and it's really refreshing to have seen the amount of pushback that we've had on this in the last couple of weeks. So keen to get everybody else's thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think for the people, I mean, as you mentioned, in Switzerland, that's the only country that's mandated that. It obviously sucks for people who are having to go through that process, and it would have been easier for them to have that integration. But because of a lot of these software applications are being used worldwide, it would open the doors for new regulation around the world. If they knew that the technical solutions are all being implemented in it, and it would be no big hassle for users to sign that way. So I think on that front, it is a big win. But one thing that I think it's cool that they took a step back and removed it from their software, but that is not enough in itself. I think the one example that was also mentioned in the article on Bitcoin Magazine was that in last year in the Netherlands, they had a similar situation where it was also mandated that you sign that you own the withdrawal addresses, and that was actually fought in court, and the regulation was taken back. So, and that I think is the next step. That the technology's out there now to do that. Everyone knows that. The regulators have seen that too. So I think it's just a matter of time. This just bought us some time till it'll be implemented or mandated. And I think, the next step has to be that to fight that in court.
The door's open now. That's the problem. It's like once you make them aware, like you said, you make them aware, oh yeah, you can do this, it's easy to integrate, then they'll come up with a stupid argument like, oh, what have you got to hide? Why wouldn't you do it? It's easy. And it's like it's so easy just to roll over and go, oh, well, it's not that much of a difficulty because they know we've bought from KYC Exchange, so they've got record that we have it. So you would assume that you are sending to your own wallet, and then you could do the hops from there. And, you can make all these excuses, and like that's not wrong, but it just sets a precedent. And like Q&A, like you were saying, the fact that we're getting more and more integration with the legacy system is not exciting. It's shit, because we know how fucked the legacy system is. Most of us are here because we don't want to touch that anymore. And so bringing these things in to appease regulators and to make it really, really easy for people to get onboarded is, in my opinion, like we always talk about time preference. It's really fucking high time preference. It's like, oh, let's just make it as easy as possible for people so that more and more people come in, so that number go up. Why else would you want to get more users on board, like more normies in here? Like, what's the reason? And then so you then get yourself tied up with more and more regulations, you get yourself into more and more trouble over time, and everything's tracked and everything's traced. Well, how much is it going to be worth long term then? Because then you take away one of the most interesting properties of this thing, or certainly the most interesting to me, is like it becomes less and less free. And so I just think people maybe need to rethink, if they are saying on Twitter, oh yeah, this is going to be generational wealth, blah, 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 like half of it's obviously bullshit, because if that really was the way you're thinking, then why do you care about onboarding a couple more people this year and making it 1% easier? It's a fool's game, I think.
It's around like that creep between slowly creeping into our free and open source wallet software. It does not feel right. It doesn't seem right. And my instincts just go, nah, this is not something that we are going to pander to. I don't want to see it in my software. I don't want developers developing this crap. I don't want them to make it easier for, ramping on and off to a legacy system. So yeah, I'm very happy with the turn of events that happened there. That creep. It's like, where does it end then, right? So once you bring in this AOPP, just a little bit more. Next thing you know, what, the whole development team is bought out by a regulatory, capture. Where does that
tip.
end? So that's so it's just, I'm glad we just said absolutely no. There needs to be a massive pushback from the start, and that's what I saw this week or last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was great to see.
Just to cap off that discussion, on the day or the day after there was the big massive pushback. Samurai Wallet did a Telegram sort of live stream on their thoughts, because I think they were sort of at the forefront of a lot of the pushback. So probably good. I'll send you the link to it, Max, if you haven't already heard it, because it's like an hour sort of Q&A session where they sort of explain their stance on it and why once you sort of scratch under the surface a little bit, it's not just sort of an innocent little message signing protocol. So it's a good one to link, I think.
Nice.
All right. Then we'll jump on the last few. We've got ThunderHub v0.13.6 with small updates. And then also Trezor Suite v222.1.1. There was also AOPP, as we just discussed, but taking that back. Then Umbrella OS.v 0.4.13 with a few new apps in their app store. Whirlpool CLI v0.10.12. Also a few updates there with address reuse protection and a few others, which is nice. Then the last two, Zap Android v0.5.5 beta and Zeus v0.6.0 beta with LNURL oath, as we discussed earlier.
There's one news article that I wanted to bring up, because I know you two, Max and Antimus, are pretty keen on the mining front. Did you see the news about Grid and Intel with their sort of deal that they've struck?
I did.
What's your thoughts? It seems like it's going to be quite a big deal.
Yeah, I guess just we have to wait and see, but it certainly is exciting to see another big player come in. It hopefully could shake things up a little bit. I am slightly concerned about my my little bit of hash rate and what's going to happen to the market, because it feels like this could really explode. I was chatting to someone the other day who was saying with a lot of these big contracts where they're purchasing, like a large company is purchasing, 50 million, 100 million worth of miners. They're going to Bitmain, or they're speaking to the Chinese manufacturers. They're saying, all right, we're putting 50 million or 100 million down. Can we have an agreement drawn up? And can you tell us when it's going to arrive? And can we have some sort of payment scheme where if you deliver late, then you owe us, or if it's early, then we pay you extra, and blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, no. Can we just send you over our solicitors' questions? No, you either want them or you don't. As much as I love that, it's really fucking funny to see these huge companies who are used to doing things a certain way just being told, no, if you want it, you pay us. If you don't and you want to do things your way, fuck off. I think what will probably happen is someone like Intel will really professionalize the whole thing, and you will probably see bigger players come in, big money come in, because that's the way that they operate. And also it's Intel, as much as we're fighting against sootiness and all that kind of stuff, I do think that more money's going to come in, which maybe worries me, because I think hash rate could explode. But at the same time, at least it decentralizes things a little bit, and we don't just have two big players. We shall see. What about you, Antimus? Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, to your point, I think the agreement was between the two of them that they'd be taking 1/4 of all their mining supply through 2025. So that's a pretty big deal. We'll see how much they'll actually be producing, but it seems like they're not fucking around. So that'll be a steady flow of additional hash rate coming on over the next few years. Yeah. So as it pertains to difficulty, I think that will be pretty brutal over the next few years. So I'm with you on being scared about my hash rate. But one thing that I am really looking forward to is seeing the specs of the miner from Intel, because what I've heard, it's supposed to be very efficient, but also modular and on a smaller scale. So I think that's something we spoke about a few months ago as well, that maybe having something that Steve Barber talks about a lot as well, is the Prius of the miners, like something that's efficient and cheap and small and modular. That might be something that'd be cool if it goes in that direction, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was just about to. My first thought when I read it was that Intel was sort of getting into the game, was that, this has got to, if it's ever going to happen, this has got to be the start of the sort of commodification of Bitcoin mining, and it sort of becomes a lot less of a sort of niche thing to do. And if they can make, like Antimus says, the Prius or the slow and steady, semi-efficient, not massive hash rate, but something that you just plug in and forget about, that doesn't cause you to have a divorce or a mental breakdown, then I think it's going to be exciting to see how it pans out. And I've seen Catan unmute himself a couple of times, so I'm going to shut up now so he can chime in.
Yeah, so I don't look. I'm not, because here in Australia the power is ridiculously expensive, but so I don't follow too much in mining. But the first thing that I thought of whenever I see Intel is there going to be a backdoor in here? Like that's what I was thinking. So yeah, so your investment may actually be okay.
Yeah, but
Max.
Well, is it though? Because what does a backdoor mean? Does it mean that they're going to be using some of the hash, that they're effectively like that's their backdoor, or are you thinking, oh well, they're taking information that they shouldn't? Because if it's that they're somehow taking hash, then as long as they're actually hitting the figures that they advertise, then it doesn't really matter. Let's say that like Intel comes in and they go, oh, we've got this miner and it's going to be 200 terahash and it outcompetes, or if it's going to be the Honda, then okay, it's 100 terahash, but it's less than half the price of something that's 200 terahash and it's more efficient. Well, okay, even if they are taking a percentage and you don't know about it, does it really matter? Or are you thinking that it's actually going to be your personal information or something, some sort of fuckery like that?
Yeah, so I was thinking some sort of fuckery like that. I was thinking maybe they would be able to get information through on your net, because you're going to be connected to your home network or some other network. Will they have access to other, insecure devices in your home? Those sorts of things. I don't know. I mean, look, we all use Intel computers anyway, but I'm just suggesting, because we've got the word Bitcoin, it just alarm bells just start to go. Okay, private keys, XPubs, these sorts of things. What can be extracted out of my home?
How many are going to be home mine? I would think that Intel are going to go for the big boys. It just makes sense because of what I said earlier. Is like it's wild west. These big companies, if they're deploying hundreds of millions of dollars, they're not used to people saying, have it or not, I don't fucking care. Like, no, I'm not reading this user agreement. No, I'm not speaking to your solicitors. Just buy it or fuck off. Like, that's basically how they're treated. They're treated like shit, basically, compared to what they're normally treated like. So they're going to come to someone like Intel because they're like, well, it's Intel. They do all of this stuff that we're used to, and we know that we feel safe. And then do they care if they're buying 10,000 miners and whacking them in a warehouse and doing all the compliance shit in the SG anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, they probably don't care if they're being backdoor because everyone knows it's all out in the open anyway. But yeah, to your point about home mining, that's probably true. We should try and sort of do some digging before anyone whacks them into their home.
Right, the last big thing, and the main reason I wanted Catan here today, because I know he's been in the trenches with this one, is Craig from Sparrow has released sort of a piece of documentation that he's been doing some testing around different Electrum servers, based on some of the sort of technical issues that have been coming up in the Telegram room since he implemented Whirlpool. So I won't steal his thunder. I'll let Catan sort of set the scene and tell us what he's found in relation to what the information that Craig's put out as well.
All right. So Craig's put out some information regarding Electrum servers in particular. He's basically compared different Electrum servers and their performance against big wallets. Now, I don't mean big wallets by large holdings. I mean big wallets by when you do like Whirlpool transactions or when you have large volumes of transactions within one XPub or one wallet. You start to query the server a little bit harder than if you had just like 10 transactions on that wallet. So with this, he's compared how an Electrum Rust server performs, which is by and large what most node implementations are using these days. Umbrel uses it, Raspberry Blitz uses it, MyNode uses it. I think Umbrel probably uses it as well. They're all on the Electrum Rust server. The good thing is with Electrum Rust server is that it only takes up 30 gigabytes of space. That is a very, very small amount of overhead for this space. But when you query a large Whirlpool wallet with it, it is downloading, upwards of 3.5 gigabytes from your server to your home. To your computer that you're querying. That is a lot of data traversing through the network. And so as a result, it takes a significant amount of time to query these large balances or these large wallets. So sorry. And so what's happened is Craig's gone out on a bit of an endeavor to see, okay, what other Electrum servers are there? Electrum X, on the other hand, is a significantly more performant server, but it takes up a little bit more gigabytes. I think it's somewhere in the orders of 70 gigabytes that it takes up. But when you query it, it's a lot faster. And so it's able to pull your balances down very, very quickly and get the status of your wallet up to date very, very quickly. And then he's just done some more testing on this Fulcrum server. Now, the drawback is that, this is going to take up 100 gigabytes of space. It takes a fairly long time to do the initial sync as well. For me, that was I think I did that in 12 hours, I want to say, for the initial sync. An Electrum X server takes 1.5 days for an initial sync. But the Fulcrum server, which is the 100 gigabyte one, this thing is a beast. You get your Whirlpool balance in like milliseconds. It is very, very performant, and so Craig has sort of recommended in his little piece here that if you have the ability to. And you've got these large Whirlpool mixers that are only going to continue mixing well into the future, then as a result, you may wish to consider, instead of the Electrum Rust server, you may wish to consider a Fulcrum or an Electrum X server. So I released a video on the Ministry of Nodes YouTube channel showing users how to install an Electrum X server. I will be doing another Ubuntu 22.04 series that will include the Fulcrum server. And yes, I'll be probably releasing all that information in a few months' time when that all gets released and is up to date. At the moment, though, it doesn't seem to be able to connect with Dojo. However, they have fixed that. Electrum X and Fulcrum don't seem to connect with Dojo, but they have fixed it. And in the next release, 1.14, we should see that being able to be done. So that would bring everything into a full circle, and my life will be complete.
So a couple of questions from me that people listening might have. But you mentioned the 12-hour sync. I presume, me knowing you as I do, that's not on a Raspberry Pi.
No, it's not, mate. Yeah. So, it's most people, fortunately or unfortunately, are running a Raspberry Pi. That's going to take a long, long time to sync on I would say it does take longer than an Electrum Rust server. It will take maybe a week or so to sync on a Raspberry Pi. The length of time will increase significantly, but the performance going forward will be a lot better than an Electrum Rust server.
And just to go right back to the beginning, so if somebody's running, say, an Umbrel with an Electrum Rust server, as you say, and they've got a fairly deep Whirlpool wallet. What were they actually seeing within Sparrow when they were using Sparrow Wallet to sort of prompt and kick all of this sort of initiative off? Was it just that they weren't? Was it missing balances or?
It would just time out. It wouldn't actually refresh the wallet, as far as I'm aware. So it would take no. So what would happen is it would time out. So I think Max tried to do it. His wallet just could not even load. He had he has a lot of transactions. So his wallet couldn't load at all. And others are just taking, upwards of 30 seconds to load, to a minute to get those balances. And each time something happens, like they open up their wallet, they're waiting, in that vicinity, and it's just not a good user experience. And so people aren't used to waiting 30 seconds to open up a wallet, and they just sort of crash out of it anyway, thinking that, well, what's happened? It's not loading. So that's what was, I think, being faced in the Sparrow Wallet channels.
Interesting. I think I've just had a quick scan through the end of his document, and he's got like a TLDR or summary at the bottom, and it says that upon initial load, Fulcrum is 22 times faster than Electrum X and 300 times faster than Electrum's Rust server. 300 times faster. And then upon a wallet refresh, as you've just said, Fulcrum is 8 times faster than Electrum X and 1.5 times faster than Electrus, which doesn't sound groundbreaking, but I think what's not documented there is what you've just said, is that it's not only is it just faster, it just won't fail, or it won't give up halfway, like you just said. So I, for one, am really excited to test this out, but being the lazy, technically inept person I am, I'm probably just going to wait until hopefully Ronin Dojo implements it so that I can report back from my personal findings. But just wanted to thank you for the summary, and also thank you for the video as well. If I was a better man, I could have said it would be you to be first out of the gates with that one. So thank you on behalf of everyone listening.
You're welcome.
So when you're saying this is 100 gigabyte, do you mean that you have to store that on your node? Like it's going to be more bloaty? Sorry, on your node, on your SD, are you going to have to have more data on there than you would with these other ones?
That's correct, yeah. So at the moment, we've got an on-chain footprint of about 450 gigabytes. And then on top of that, you've got an Electrum server. So depending on which Electrum server, will use up your disk space. So typically you've got a 1 terabyte SSD. Most people are running those. That's the standard these days. And so of that 450, we'd now be looking at 550 for a Fulcrum server, whereas an Electrum Rust server would only be at that 480 or 490 range.
Okay, so the drawbacks are that you have to have more storage, but most people, like you say, have 1 terabyte, so that isn't really an issue, and that it takes longer to download in the first place. And did you say it was 12 hours for you to download?
So it's not a download process. What happens is it's a synchronization process. So what happens is there's a database that is being built. So using the 450 gigabytes of data that Bitcoin Core has, think of it like a summary or a database. And that database literally is just growing and growing and growing as you synchronize up to the chain tip. And by the end of it, you end up with this huge database of, 100 gigabytes. And so that's what you are. And to create that takes, for me, it took 12 hours. And that was on one of my Nodebox machines that I usually run. It's a Dell Optiplex i5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 1 terabyte SSD. So that was, 12 hours or so, which is pretty good. But on a Raspberry Pi, obviously that's going to take a fair bit longer.
Okay, and say you're running something on a Raspberry Pi and you're using Electrum X or Electrum Rust currently, if you're then to either, however you'd word it, upgrade or change to this Fulcrum thing, then does that mean that your node would actually be down and unusable for that time, or can you run one while the other one's synchronizing, or whatever you'd call it?
So it depends on how these node packages are going to implement this. They will probably take it down because they want to make sure that the same port is running. You can't run two services on the same port. So I think the way that they will do it is you'll hit the upgrade button. That will then shut down your Electrum server or your existing Rust server. That will also delete the 30 gigabytes, and then it'll start the resync all over again. Similar to how I think that happened with the Electrum Rust server when they changed their structure from 70 gigabytes to 30 gigabytes. That needed a whole new, refresh. And so in that upgrade process, they've probably taken everything down and deleted it. And then on top of that, they've started the sync. And then, it'll be down during that time. Yeah.
Just on the storage piece, you kind of just summarized it there a little bit. I don't think, the extra storage that Fulcrum takes compared to an Electrum server isn't actually that much of an issue because, as you just said, Katan, that it's only recently that Electrum Rust server, which is the common one everybody's running, was sort of 70, 80 gigabytes, which meant that plus the Bitcoin blockchain, most people already had to run more than a 500 gig hard drive anyway. So 99% of the people that are going to see the benefit from this will already have a 1 terabyte hard drive anyway. So they've got more than enough space to accommodate this, which for me far outweighs the performance improvements that they're going to see, particularly if they've got deep CoinJoin wallets that via Samurai or Sparrow.
One question I had for Fulcrum was what's the developer base look like, and the open source community around that? Because I heard mention that it's been used in quite a few other coins and protocols and stuff. And is it are there a lot of people working on that? What's the development there look like? Do you know?
Now, I think it's similar to Sparrow in that there's a lead developer, and he has been around for a while, and he supports BCH, but we've been told that he is somewhat coin agnostic. So this thing supports Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, but that's got whether that continues into the future, we don't know, because there has been some history in the past where the Electrum X developer just decided he'd go down the BSV route and stop supporting Bitcoin. So that's why Electrum wallet had to fork Electrum X to support Bitcoin again. And so they maintained the Electrum X server. Whether that is happening, I think Craig's more in the detail of that, and whether but the reading that Craig got, and from what I'm hearing, is that he seems relatively coin agnostic and will happily be supporting Bitcoin. But that's not to say that things can change by tomorrow. I don't think so, but we don't know.
I actually think that the fact that it's been built around, or initially built around, let's call them bloatier blockchains, is probably bodes well for as a sort of stress test, because I'm again not super technical, but I'm sure that if it can cope with Bitcoin Cash or BSV's blockchains, which I believe are significantly larger than Bitcoin's, then the smaller chain with a consequently smaller database produced from that is going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have anybody got anything else to cover off?
Maybe just one quick note at the end. HRF has announced a whole bunch of new grants for devs. That's really cool to see. I think their development fund was launched in 2020, and they've put out quite a few grants over the last year and a half. And this is now 4.25 Bitcoin going out to 10 different people. There are quite a few developers, but also human rights activists around the world. That's really amazing to see.
Yeah, absolutely co-sign that as well. It was also good just to see Mr. Dorsey putting his money where his mouth is, and co-funding the Bitcoin Developer Lawsuit Defense Fund. I'm sure that's not the proper name for it, but that's essentially what it is. so they kind of the way I understand it is they've put a pot of money aside essentially to that Bitcoin core devs can draw upon if complete lunatics from Australia, and I'm not talking about Catan, take them to court. Yeah, nice to see, and it's interesting to watch his journey as he's quite clearly falling very, very deep down the rabbit hole. Seems to be coming out of the woodwork a lot more since he's left Twitter.
Yes, I have noticed him being a lot more vocal.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I guess he was tied on what he could do and what he could say. I guess this is probably a trend that will continue. What else have we got? We got anything else on the list or anything we can chat about?
I was give us a Compass mining update, guys. How you getting on? Hashing away?
Offline.
What?
Been offline for the last 6
Shit,
days.
what happened? With any explanation?
Fuck knows. No, to be fair, I haven't even bothered trying because I know that the response would be shit, and I've been so busy. I've just gone fuck this. I've got too much shit going on. But maybe after this, I'll ping them an email and find out. But yeah, offline. To be fair, it literally happened the day that I released, or the day after, sorry, that I released the episode with Lily, and basically said, yeah, she's leaving Compass, and in so many ways said, she's leaving because they're fucking shit. And then I went offline. So I don't know whether maybe they listened. Wit, maybe you've been listening and hearing me tell you to go fuck yourself. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I can only reiterate, go fuck yourself and don't buy from Compass.
His microphone's muted, but I can hear Catan, the Selfos king, muttering, "Not your mine and not your hash," or something to that effect.
I know.
Yeah,
he's
it's
so right.
not your hash.
Yeah.
But look, I have been hearing these stories just on end, mate. Like the number of people who have come out to me and said, "Mate, Compass is going to be dead within 6 months."
It will be.
Fuck me, mate. Like it is bad. I don't know what's going on over there. But yeah, I do what I can to push a better result, but it's not going to happen. I don't know. I have no idea. It's not.
I mean, the thing is, that you're down for the last week. I mean, that's brutal. I have no idea what's going on there. I mean, I'm lucky in that regard. They've been pretty stable. They've been down a few times, but just like an hour here, an hour there, over the last 2 months. But one thing I have been thinking about, especially with what you just said, that there might be, or a lot of people are saying they'll be dead in 6 months. At the moment, we've still got the option to have them sent to us, the miners, because they are legally, at least on paper, ours. So we could have them sent to us. If they actually do go down, then pretty fucked, and it'll be pretty difficult to get those machines out of there. So I was thinking about doing that. The problem is, I mean, here with close to 40 cents per kilowatt hour here in Germany, you can absolutely forget it. Plugging them in here.
Yeah.
So,
and sending them back from the US, presumably there's going to be a load of taxes and charges and bullshit and shipping and all that sort of stuff on top. So it's not a decision that should be taken lightly. And the only reason, like, Catan's right, not your home, not your hash. And I knew this, like I knew it when I ordered them, but I was just, basically I was tempted by the energy prices. I was like, I really want to do some mining. I never have a stable place to be. I'm still not like in a home that I'm going to be in long term. Like, the power costs are expensive. This would just be, I know it's not ideal, but let's just give it a go. But yeah, shipping them over here, getting whacked with the taxes and all the rest of it isn't ideal at all. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's better to do that probably than lose it completely, because I assume they probably owe money left, right, and centre. It seems that that's probably the case, or they're making promises that they can't deliver on. So then what happens to the miners? If they go under, do the debtors take the miners, or because they're linked to us, can they not do that? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like the trend will continue and will continue to get fucked.
Well,
Sad
very
to
sad,
see.
very sad indeed, and I hope it unfolds favourably for you. But I can't say I'm holding my breath on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that would sway me in the direction of having them sent here is if, and I'm hearing a few rumors that might happen in the coming months, that Brains comes out with the firmware updates for the S19s or the 19th generation, because that would be a game changer. Obviously, we'll have to see if and when it does actually come out, what the specs will be. But if they are more efficient as they were for the 17 generation and the S9s, that would be amazing. So we'll see.
Yeah, because that would offset the cost of the energy effectively. If you could flash it and you get a big enough increase in efficiency, then it could be worth it. That's a really good point.
I mean,
actually.
partially.
I mean, partially, sure, yeah, but I mean, but then you also have this massive tail risk with Compass, which is like, okay, it's cheaper today, but is it cheaper overall? And the answer is probably no. So yeah, it does seem like that would probably make sense. We just have to find a way where the shipping, or you find someone else in the US that can host. I mean, that would be logical to me. Like if we could find people in the US that are trusted, that they can negotiate a rate at 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour, and we go, look, we'll pay you 10, just fucking look after the miner. We'd probably still be better off with that because of the shipping and import and fees and all that sort of stuff, and also having to deal with the noise and the heat and everything else. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's really fucking irritating, and it's pissing me off because there are so many people that are still working with them. Like I can barely listen to a podcast anymore because I go on and they're sponsoring everyone, and I'm just like, although Matt and Marty dropped them, and I was really happy to see that, but like everyone's fucking sponsored by them and shilling it to people who are coming into the space, and I'm just like, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, have a look if you are going to move your miners. Have a look at Blockware Solutions. Not talking for personal experience, but I know a couple of people who've had miners hosted with them for a couple of years and have had good experience. So, if there are people listening that are in a similar situation to you, it might be one to look into. But as always, big disclaimer: do your own research. But I've heard good things about them, and they're fairly well established.
Okay. Nice. Right, that's our monthly Compass slag off. Fuck you, Wick Gibbs. Anything else?
No, good for me. Thanks, guys. So enjoyed that one.
Cheers, all fine. Cheers.
Cool. Well, thanks, Katam, for filling us in on all that stuff and joining us. That was awesome.
No worries, it was my pleasure.
Can I just, before we sign out, ask one question, which I'll forget otherwise? With a Linux laptop, like the beginning bit when you go into command line, it will say at the far left-hand side, it will say your name or whatever you've named your laptop, followed by a load of $signs and whatever else. How do I change that so that if I'm sending logs, it doesn't dox me because I stupidly named the laptop something I shouldn't?
So in the are you on Pop OS?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's in the settings there. If you go to settings and down to the about section, you can check the device name. You can change the device name, and if you change that, you can change it to whatever your Anon
yeah, I
name
did.
is.
I did that,
and then it didn't
but
work?
it doesn't. No, I did that, and I've restarted the computer, and then I've gone back into the command line, and it's still what it was previously. But when I log in, it's different. It's like the nim that I've put on there. So I tried because that's what Brother Rabbit told me, and I was like, okay, cool, I did that, and it didn't work. And then I was like, okay, right, this is going to have to go.
Oh,
up
you've
the chain.
changed the username. No. So you've gone the username, have you? That you've doxed?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Actually, I did what you just said about going into the settings and changing it. I changed.
then you're going to need to use a new user.
So I can't change that.
Oh, I haven't tried because I don't dox myself on my computer. I just
Fuck's
use
sake! No, I didn't. I didn't dox myself. I didn't dox myself. I used Max bit by bit, but because the computer doesn't fucking work and it's got a problem with the mouse, I've been asked to run a load of commands that should install some package that should fix it, but it obviously hasn't. And then they've said, Starbuck, send me the logs. And I'm like, okay, I can send you the logs. The issue is that gives you my Max bit by bit name, but then you know me as my real doc's name, or they do, because I had to pay with fiat, which means they'll go, right, this bloke who's called Max bit by bit is actually this guy. Possibly, I know, like, it's a bit tinfoil hatty, but like I'm doxing myself where I wouldn't with anyone else because no one else would have my details, but they do, and so it's just a very.
Do you know what I would do?
Go on.
So what I would do is copy it, paste it into whatever the logs are, paste it into somewhere, and then Control H, which is the find and replace,
right,
and then go Max bit by bit, and then just put Max and replace it with Max.
Or Dave.
Might want to while you're at it, just change your password away from password 123 as well.
Oh really?
Oh shit!
Can you do it for me? You've got all my passwords. Do you mind just sorting it out?
Then I'll do it in a minute for you.
Are you sure you're getting your Compass Mining payouts, mate?
Well, someone
Q&A's
is.
Not
someone is.
It to him.
I can't log in. I don't have my login details. I've been relying on Q&A, but I trust you, mate. I'm sure you're
safe with me. Don't worry.
All right, cool. That's probably a really boring bit of chat for everyone else, but that was very helpful. Thank you, mate. I'll do that and get the laptop working. Thanks, everyone. That was really cool. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, guys. Speak soon.
Cheers. Thanks.
See ya.
Adios.